Greetings, beloveds. This is Cosmic Earth Amy, back with you after quite a long time of being absent. I don't know if this is going to be an ASMR video right now. There may be some noise in the background that may not be conducive to ASMR. I will generally try to use soft speech, so if it works out, then I will go ahead and label this as an ASMR video. Otherwise, I will not. It will just be some updates for you. And today I especially want to talk to you about stories, and that's because I know there are a lot of stories being broadcast in the world right now, and those may be making you feel one way or another. In particular for me, I've been noticing that some of the stories being told don't feel very good. And I have been fortunate enough to come across ways and means of questioning them and finding different stories. So the first thing I want to clue you in on is when you hear a story, the more that story is about the individual experience in the present moment, the more it is likely to be true. The more a story is about something in the past, even if it's only 5 seconds ago or a minute ago or an hour ago, the more I want you to think, maybe, yes, okay, maybe that is part of the truth, or at least it was part of the truth in that moment when it happened, when the experience came, and there may be something more to it. So I have come across a whole new paradigm, basically, which is a fairly largely encompassing story, to, if you can call a paradigm that, which is very much in contrast with the story I had been listening to about some things. The new story, the new paradigm, can best be summed up in one word: biogeometry. And biogeometry was in one way discovered and in another way developed upon that discovery by Ibrahim Karim. Dr. Ibrahim Karim. He's a PhD in, I believe it's architecture. I believe he may also have a degree in tourism, something like that. But his father was an architect, and I have posted a playlist from him, from his biogeometry organization, if I can call it that, or business, potentially. He does sell some things that are very helpful, and I have purchased some of them myself, including this pendant, actually 2 pendants here, which I have found extremely helpful, but I'll get to that in a moment, a little bit more. Essentially, biogeometry helps to identify certain shapes, whether they are in nature or whether they are man-made, which help us to center in a very balanced, harmonious way which sustains life, essentially. And so that center point of balance and harmonization, or harmony, is representative of what some call God, what others may just call the force or the life force, and it is very healthful for everyone, no matter where on the spectrum they may be. when I say spectrum, some of you may be familiar with yin and yang in Chinese medicine and trying to balance those. If someone is more yang, they may need more yin to help balance the yang, and vice versa. But with this center point in biogeometry, it helps balance regardless of whether you have too much of one or the other. It's not trying to balance or center using duality, and rather it's trying to balance, or it does balance and center with unity. So it's been a very, very enlightening thing for me to be learning about over the last 2 months now. I discovered it right before my birthday, and I have, like I said, purchased some things, and I've noticed so much help from those things. So, for example, one of the stories, as I started to speak about stories at the beginning of this video. One of the stories I've been listening to for a long time is about how fossil fuels are causing global warming. I'm sure most of you have at least heard that story if you don't actually also believe it yourself. And I still believe that that is true, that fossil fuels and the consumption or the burning of fossil fuels contributes to global warming, climate change, which I think is a slightly more accurate description of what is happening relative to any global warming that is happening. And I've discovered through listening to Dr. Ibrahim Karim and those he has taught that electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic fields, also he calls them electromagnetic radiation, all being generally the same thing, referencing the same thing, also contribute to global warming and or climate change. And so not only, I think a lot of you who are watching this video already know that EMF, as it's often called, electromagnetic fields or frequencies, can cause disharmony in our bodies, but I don't know that most of you who are watching this video have considered how electromagnetic or EMFs, I'm going to go ahead and start calling them, can affect our atmosphere, our environment, and climate change, increasing the temperature of our atmosphere. And what I've learned is that, yes, it does, and the primary way it does that with our bodies, the environment, and the earth in general, or at least on the surface, is by heating up the molecules, kind of like a microwave does, and therefore they can no longer hold as much water, and so they become dehydrated and potentially to some degree or another slightly desiccated. And it's to a degree or an extent that no matter how much water you consume, electrolytes, you consume, which are all very good for you. I highly recommend that you stay hydrated to the best of your ability and that you hydrate also using electrolytes. And even no matter how much chapstick or lip balm, I should say, or lotion you put on, you still may feel dry if you're paying attention to your body and how you feel. And you may also notice that the landscapes around you are drier than they have been in the past, no matter how much they are being watered. For example, I live in a very arid climate, a very arid environment and ecosystem here in Colorado. And so I think it's particularly noticeable here how dry things are. We had our wettest spring and summer ever, maybe. I can't remember exactly what the record was, but we had a very wet spring and summer here where I live, and yet we have plants that are still very dry right now, even though we've had some precipitation even this fall as well. So that's what these EMFs can do. And by finding these centering tools, these biogeometry tools, we can help things at least at the individual level, definitely on the home level, and then as we go from there, it takes a little bit more work. And I know on my part, I'm going to try to take more classes to learn how to effect that sort of change or that sort of help on a larger scale, hopefully in the near future. So I hope that makes sense. I know each and every one of us makes a difference to, first and foremost, ourselves. And then as we help ourselves and change ourselves, we only then can change others in that same way, or influence others, I should say. Everyone has to make their own choice about those things. And so I extend to you the invitation to just pay attention to yourself, to your own body, how you're feeling in the present moment. I'm sure that to some degree you've already done some of that. You've noticed some things, but work on being more open in each moment as to where those feelings are coming from, what may be causing them. I believe EMFs, in addition to the dehydration and the inflammation that they can cause in our bodies, also definitely affect us on a mental level. So they can cause irritation, depression, anger, and discontent, dissatisfaction. So if you're feeling those things, just take a moment to really check and feel into whether that discontent is coming from yourself, from your situation, or maybe your environment. And what might you be able to do to help center your environment and therefore eventually center yourself. And so I will leave you with just a little bit of ASMR at the very end here. And I had already understood and known about the effects of spirals, and especially clockwise versus counterclockwise. But in this one class that I've started to take from Dr. Robert Gilbert, who teaches about biogeometry as well as vibrational pendulum work, which may be different from other pendulum work you may have heard about, is that the clockwise motion helps to increase or charge, in a way, the person or object from the point of view of the viewer looking at the person or object. So when I draw softly, gently, a clockwise spiral going to the center, from my perspective, I am helping to increase, charge you, as long as you allow me to. You don't have to let that in if you don't want to, but the intention is for it to be healthful, helpful, and enhancing your experience, enhancing your energy, and centering you. So I will also do that briefly with one of the other things I learned about in my class, which is indigo gabbro, also known as mystic merlinite, not just merlinite, but mystic merlinite. This is a wonderful stone which holds a charge better than any other stone that Dr. Gilbert knows of or has tested, even selenite. So this stone, better than any other stone he knows of at least, holds the charge and can help cleanse other stones and your body and so forth. And it doesn't need to be even washed as much, although I still do wash mine from time to time. So I will leave you with, if you will allow me and accept it and let it in, 3 indigo gabbro spirals for you to increase the love and attention to the present moment in your life. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste, beloveds.